Hey guys, my name is Jordan Sullivan, owner and head dietitian at TFD, and today I'll be reviewing Khabib's weight cut ahead of UFC 254. Hey, welcome back guys. So today we'll be reviewing Khabib Nurmagomedov's weight cut ahead of his championship defense against Justin Gaethje for UFC 254. Happened a couple of months ago. This video though only came out about mid last month. I was actually on holidays and I kept getting all these messages. Hey, have you seen the Khabib video? Have you seen the Khabib video? And yeah, I've been pretty excited to do this. I've been a bit busy, but hey, here we are. Before we get started, I'm interested and I'm excited to do this and have a look because Khabib is a little notorious for his relationship with the scale. Like, he's missed weight twice in the UFC, I want to say. Early on in his career at UFC 160, and then again the more well-known, a bit more famous tiramisu story when he fought Tony Ferguson at UFC 209, I want to say. And that was back in 2017 or something, but he's had his troubles with the scales. I know a few people who are in Khabib's circles, and they say that he's pretty good with it. He's pretty diligent with his diet all year round. So I'm excited to see this. I'm excited to see what processes he uses to get to weight, because if anyone did see that weigh-ins, Khabib didn't really look too good. He wasn't in a good way. Yeah, let's just say that much. You should Google it or YouTube it and have a look at it. But I'm assuming this video is going to explain a lot of the reasons why he was like that. But hey, let's get straight to it, eh? Alright, so is an ad for an energy drink or something? Kick it off. Oh, that's pretty cringe. That's super cringe. What is that? Oh, powered by Gorilla Energy. It's Khabib. Khabib has an energy drink. Monster, he's coming. Khabib is coming. Alright, let's get started. So he's in his sauna suit. So if he's in his sauna suit, I'm assuming he's either using the sauna or he's exercising to do this weight cut. No one wears their sauna suit into the bath. I've heard of a story of a wrestler in the US that wears his sauna suit in the bath. Which is a bit bizarre. But we haven't really got a weight or a time or anything in this. Like, he's obviously in Fight Island. I was in Fight Island last year and I recognize the hotel, so they're probably making their way to their workout room. Every fighter gets a workout room where you get like a portable sauna and scales and everything and a bath to make weight in, and then the weigh-in room is downstairs. He's got a bit of a crew, which is good. A lot of support around him, which is always a positive thing. I've spoken about that in these videos before, is how important it is to have a good crew and support base around you when you're going through this process, especially if anything is to go wrong. Wear your mask. Protect the fighter. Is that ironic? We'll see. Oh, this is interesting. I don't think I've ever spoken about this on the channel before, but I've spoken about orthostatic hypertension at length, and that's when you get up too fast and your blood pressure drops, and then the athlete can pass out, and that's a real risk, especially with hitting their head. In elevators, this is really common, especially at the UFC, because a lot of the athletes will stay on higher floors, and then the weigh-in room will be down below on ground floor or wherever, on third or fourth floor, whatever. But it's very common after cutting weight that these guys have to come down, and you get this thing what's called elevator-induced dizziness. Excuse me, elevator-induced dizziness. And what that essentially is, everyone gets it regardless if you've been cutting weight or not, but these guys will feel the effects of it so much more because their fluid volume depleted, which means they've lost water out of their blood and the fluid in their blood is depleted. We've spoken about that a lot. Essentially the same as if you go on a roller coaster and you're going up and down. You know, when you go up and then you come down, you get that sinking feeling in your gut. Like, it's like, whoa, when you come down. Very similar when you're in an elevator and you come down, you can get that. And the reason for that is just simple physics, like Newton's first law. For every action, there's an opposite and equal reaction, except when you're in an elevator, your body is standing still, but in space, you're dropping down. So your balance system knows that that's happening, and then there's a reactory force up here, and that kind of can throw people's balance off. And because these guys are fluid volume depleted, they're not perfusing their organs, their systems as well as they could be. A lot of them can get a bit disorientated and confused and even pass out. I was at a UFC event in Melbourne a couple years ago, and I was with one of my fighters. Someone else came in, and as we went down, they'd obviously cut a lot of weight. They passed right out, and it was because of this elevator-induced dizziness. It's and this is why Khabib actually right now is resting his head on his coach, because something that you can do to kind of counter this is like sit down and focus forward, and you can like ground yourself, and you can hold on to something to oppose that force that's coming up when the elevator's dropping down. So that's why he's got his head on his coach, because he's probably feeling the effects of it. Nice elevator music. He's making me a bit nervous that he's got a sauna suit on, which makes me think he's going to cut weight exercising or in the sauna. Okay, so they're downstairs in the workout room. So they've got the portable sauna. So these portable saunas are quite cool. You can adjust a lot of temperatures on them, which is good. 7 a.m. last steps. Okay, so it's 7 a.m. now, and he's starting this process by walking on the treadmill, which is okay if you're kind of warming the body up. We're not used to see him in this state, but it's fine. Now he's on the bike, and he's sweating quite a lot. Most important is to make weight, and he will finish him. I would say most important right now is to keep Khabib safe, but whatever. So he's sweating quite a lot on the bike. So this is a bit hard. We don't really have like a timeline. They're not putting up times, and they haven't really given us a weight where he's at. They set up the portable sauna, so I'm going to assume they're going to use that. But I would hope that he's not going to be doing this whole process actively. And when I say actively, I mean through exercise. And the reason I don't like doing it actively, and I've spoken about this before, is that when you're going through this acute weight loss process in the week leading up, in fight week, a lot of the strategies you're using, you're pulling back on carbohydrates, you're dropping the amount of calories that you're having, you're energy restricting, and then you're playing around with fluid and sodium. So when you're exercising, your body is just looking for these fuel sources and looking for places to pull energy from that it's just not there. Like at the end of the day, you're going to sweat and you're going to lose the weight, but you're going to put your body through so much more stress to get there. So I'm hoping he doesn't do this whole process actively. Lots of towels, so I'm assuming they're like setting up a wrap or something for him when he gets off the bike, which is a bit bizarre, to be honest. Unless they're for the sauna, when he gets out of the sauna. Last days of weight cut are usually difficult. Yeah, absolutely, but like it's our job to make them the least amount difficult that they have to be. No matter how prepared you are, the last day is very difficult. Like it is, it's tough, but like I said, you want to go through the path of least resistance. We did not do evening training, decided to save power. Now it's morning training. Okay, now we're getting a little more insight. So I think what he's saying is that they normally start by cutting weight at night and then they finish it off in the morning, but they didn't do that, and now they're doing the whole lot of the weight that he's got to do right now in the morning at 7 a.m. and he's probably got to weigh in 2 or 3 hours. Cover him. Like, you don't need to cover him. Like, from what I've seen so far, it looks like they're doing this process treadmill, bike, which I'm not a fan of, because I'll explain why I'm not a fan of it, and we'll come back to kind of do it. Let's take a few steps back, and you need to think about, like, what are we trying to achieve here? What we're trying to achieve is we're trying to get him to sweat out a certain amount of weight so he can make weight. So let's backtrack and go, okay, you think about sweating. What is sweating now? Sweating is when your core body temperature rises when you get exposure to a thermal stimulus, whether that is heat from your environment, say in a sauna or in a bathtub and you've got hot water, or when you're exercising and your muscles are contracting, they're producing heat. You're raising that core body temperature. And now you've got this nice little feedback system in your body that's linked with your hypothalamus, that when this core body temperature goes up, hypothalamus goes, okay, cool, we need to cool the body. I'm going to start recruiting sweat glands. You've got millions of sweat glands all over your body, most concentrated on your hands and your feet. And then as this core body temperature rises, you start recruiting all of these sweat glands. And then you get to a point where you've recruited a lot of them, and you're not only recruiting them, you're telling them to push out more fluid. And when we say push out more fluid, you're taking fluid from the blood, you're putting it on the skin, and the way that it's cooling, a phase change is occurring. If there's any chemistry nerds here, you'll like this. It's evaporating. It's going from a liquid to a gas, which is called evaporation. The reason this happens is because there's H2O in our sweat. So say H2O, hydrogen and oxygen. The heat from our body is actually providing the energy to break that bond. And within that, you're losing heat to turn this fluid into a gas. So you're breaking that bond and turning it into a gas. And by doing that, you're using heat from the body. So the heat is fueling this evaporative process, which is cooling your body, which is really cool. Like, it's a very, very smart survival mechanism, stops our body overheating. All it is your core body temperature is going up, and then you're getting this sweating process. You're getting that process regardless of if you're exercising on a bike, whether you're sitting in a sauna, whether you're in a hot tub. This is the reason I'm not a fan of doing this actively, like I said before, because when you're doing it actively over here and you're contracting your muscles are looking for energy that just isn't there. It's looking for fuel sources that aren't there. You've just spent a week or 5 or 7 days depleting glycogen. You've been eating lower calories. You don't have a lot of fluid, and you just don't have it there. And yes, you're getting the same response. All this other stuff is happening, but you're just putting your body through more stress than what it needs to be. He looks like he's, I don't know. He seems coherent enough, but he definitely doesn't look like he's having a nice time. Now he's just passed out, face planted on the ground. Last time we were making weight in the evening, now we're doing it in the morning. Okay, so again, they usually do it there, but now they're doing it in the morning. Oh, don't lift him up, don't do it. Oh, no. Oh. Again, I've said this so many times. That is a big no-no. Orthostatic hypertension is a real thing. Your blood pressure will drop, people will pass out. There's a risk of them hitting their head. At least these guys are kind of holding them, so if he passed out, they would catch him and bring him back down and rest his head and control his head and put him in safety position and everything else. But don't do it. Don't ever go from here to here up. You're gonna pass out, and again, your body will equilibrate and it'll fix itself and you'll wake back up, come back to consciousness. But you don't need to be putting the fighter or the athlete through that additional stress. Just come up nice and slow. And again, that's why I don't like running on a treadmill. You're up high, running around. There's a risk you're passing out. You could fall off the treadmill, hit your head. Same with on the bike. At least he's got a lot of people around him that if any of that happens, they can catch him and they're watching him. And a lot of people are supporting him. So I'll give him that. Let's see how much is left. Maybe we'll get a number. We will do it before. We have 3 kilos to cut. Okay, so we've got a number. 3 kilos to cut. So that means if he's got 3 kilos to cut, then he was probably about 73.3 kilos before he started this process, which is only 4% of his body weight off weight, which in my mind and in my professional opinion and the opinion of many other good professionals, practitioners, academics, researchers in this field, 4% is considered quite safe depending how you're getting that 4% off and what you did in the week leading up to get to that 4%. If you've got 4% to go, but you haven't had fluid in 3 or 4 days and you haven't eaten carbohydrates in 2-3 weeks, and that 4% is not a good number. Like, you're going to struggle with that big time. But if you've done everything right leading up to that, there's lots of fluid in there, and you've done a good fluid water load or a fluid restriction, and you've you've timed your carbohydrate depletion really well, and you've done everything else, then 0 to 5% is considered pretty safe, and you can be confident you can get all that back in. By the time they go to the octagon, they'll be in good nick. So 4% doesn't seem too bad, but we don't know. Like, we don't have any other numbers. I don't have any other info, like what was his weight, you know, at the start of the week or whatever else. I've actually had a chat before I looked at this video. I was doing a bit of research of this, and I know a couple of people who work pretty closely around Khabib or have worked with him before, and I read this article online that just gave out these numbers, and apparently Khabib is very open with this and open about what he does in these numbers. But I sent these to this nutritionist that I know, and he pretty much confirmed. He said, yeah, they're pretty spot on what Khabib does. I don't know if these numbers work out as well as I don't know if these numbers work out to the point that they fit what happened leading up to this fight, but allegedly out of camp, Khabib walks around at 85 kilos, which is completely normal for a lightweight. That's about 17% off his fight weight, which is only, when you think about it, if we're saying you can lose 10% when you're coming into fight week, 17%, you're only losing 7% of your body weight coming into that, which is only, you know, we say 0.5 to 1.5% body weight loss per week is quite safe. And so if you're at 17%, you just got to get to 10% out. 7% over 8 weeks is really quite good. So if that's true, then that's not too bad. And then it says in camp, he walks around about 79.5 to 81 kilos, which is only 10.5 to 11.5% off his weight. And it says, well, at the time he starts fight week, by the time he starts fight week, he's down at 76.5, which is only 8% off weight. So if those numbers are correct, and he hit those numbers leading up into this, that means he's lost about 4% of his body weight in the acute weight loss stage in this fight week leading up to that, and then he's only got 4% here. So these numbers, to me, in my mind, when I'm running through, if I saw these just on paper, I'd go, that's pretty good. Like, you for a lightweight, that's pretty standard, and you've done this pretty well. The caveat to all this is, how did you do it? How did you lose that weight? How did you do your weight descent? What did you do in the acute weight loss phase? How did you lose that final 4%, which is what we're reviewing here? And I guess that's what makes a difference, is like, that's the whole argument around weight cutting, right? Is like, there's 100 different ways to skin a cat, but you and us as professionals, us as practitioners, need to find the way that is the least harmful, the most safe, and that is keeping the athlete's long-term health in mind. And we want to go down that path, the path of least resistance. So depending, you know, on all these other things, what Khabib did, these numbers aren't crazy, but what I'm seeing so far, I can see him struggling in this final 4%, because it seems a bit disjointed and probably not the most ideal way to be getting this last bit of water weight off. 3 kilogram at a time is a lot. 2 kilogram is fine, but 3 kilos is a lot. 3 kilos is a lot, especially through active dehydration. If you're working out, 3 kilos in a bath, if you're heat acclimated and you've done we do breathing exercises with our guys, and you're heat acclimated and you're trained in the bath, isn't really that bad. You can bang that out in one round, but I'm assuming none of that is happening here. Again, like, he's got so much support around him. Look at him, what a legend Khabib is, saying thank you, brothers. And he's got all this support, and even if no one here knows what's going on or what they're doing, you would hope that someone would have the sense that if something did go wrong, they would be able to get the UFC medical team or the medical staff to come in and assess it as fast as possible and keep him safe. So it's really good to see this big support network for him. You were sweating anyway. It's another good point. They're obviously assessing that sweat rate. Like I spoke about earlier, sweating is this response to your core body temperature going up. But assessing sweat rate is really important, because if you do this process right and this person isn't too dehydrated, that sweat rate should be consistent. So you can use sweat rate to make an assessment of how dehydrated or how far along this process is. Because, like I said, when your core body temperature is going up and you've recruited all those sweat glands, they should be pushing out a consistent amount of fluid in response to whatever the thermal stimulus is around it. No matter what medium or modality that you choose, it should be consistent. And so if you're wiping their head and they're still sweating every 30 to 45 seconds, you can be pretty confident, okay, they're sweating pretty consistently, there's enough to give up, and they're not right at the back end. And you see this a lot when they push the limits, their sweat rate slows down dramatically because their body just doesn't have the fluid to give, because it's a risk. They don't have the fluid. They've pushed too much fluid from the intracellular space, which has gone out to the extracellular space, which is going into the vascular space, which is pushing out onto the skin and evaporating off this cooling. You've probably pulled too much fluid from inside the cells, which your body really needs and what really wants to protect. So it just doesn't have any more fluid to give. That's hugely problematic when we're talking about rehydration in a 30 to 36 hour time period, because we don't know if we're getting that fluid back in. But assessing sweat rate is really good, and it's good to see that they're doing this. It's just you need to know what you're looking for, and you need to know, okay, at what point is it problematic? And another thing I guess that happens a lot here is people just stop sweating, right? And it's a couple things have probably happened is you just pushed it too far, and like I said, your body doesn't have that fluid to give up, or your core body temperature has just gone up so high that your body doesn't deem that this cooling system, this cooling mechanism is necessary. You need to protect your vital organs. So it says, nah, stuff that. We need to protect this, and you're going to stop sweating. And most people watching this, if you've been around fighters, cutting weight athletes, cutting weight, you've done it yourself, you would have experienced in some sense someone going bone dry in the sauna. And the sauna is notorious for this, and we can talk about this a bit later, but notorious for people going bone dry. And the reason for that is because your core body temperature goes up, and there's no way to modulate that. There's no way to modulate and flatten that curve and keep your core temperature at around 40 to 42 degrees or so, where is comfortable for the athlete to be for a decent period of time, and they can still keep sweating.
Вот у тебя уже вышел пробник. 20 секунд ушел.
He's sweating in 20 seconds. So it's good, like they're assessing that sweat rate, which is really good. And they're using ice cubes, which is encouraging. And that's a good thing to do. I think that's an important note to make, because you're using, through this whole process, what you're doing is you're manipulating the body's cooling mechanism, or the sweat response, right? So as I was talking about, your core body temperature comes up, and then as you sweat and as you cool down, it calms back down, right? And this is a big reason why I prefer the bath so much over, say, the sauna, and then doing this actively, which I do not prefer this or do not recommend this at all. But when you're in the bath, you can control so many factors that contribute to this whole mechanism, this whole sweating and cooling mechanism. When you're in a bath, you can keep your body, your trunk of the body, in a pretty hot environment or a pretty lukewarm environment, say 39 to 42 degrees warm water, and that's going to cause the core body temperature to increase and go up. What you can also do is that you can get the athlete to leave their arms and their legs and their head out, and you can do it in a cooler room where the ambient temperature isn't as hot as what that temperature of the water is. So what's going to happen is that, yes, your core body temperature is going to go up because your trunk is in the bath, but it will go up and it'll cool down. So you'll come up and the curve will flatten. And that's because there's so many other mechanisms that you can use to cool the body down. And using an ice cube is a mechanism too. If it's going up too fast and you're assessing their core body temperature is going up and they've got everything out, you can get like a bag of ice cubes or whatever, rub that over their body and bring that core body temperature down, because to sweat you only need to be above 37.5. You don't need to be too much higher. You want to get it up and then flatten it, and you can do that really effectively in the bath. When you compare that to, say, the sauna is just one temperature, really freaking hot, and your whole body is exposed to it. Your arms, your legs, your head, your trunk, everything, and you're just sitting in there, you're breathing in hot air, your body's hot, your head's hot, everything's hot, and your core body temperature is going up, and even if you've got ice cubes and whatever to use, you're probably not going to be able to flatten that, because the rate of which your core body temperature is going up is exceeding that of what you can cool it, and you can't flatten it. So a lot of people will get to the point in, say, a sauna where they'll stop sweating because their core body temperature never went like that. It just went up, and then their body goes, no, we need to prioritize protecting your vital organs, and this cooling mechanism isn't happening right now, so they stop sweating. And so what you need to do then is go back and cool the body, and you need to really assess, like, do you have the fluid volume to get it out? And if that happens to you, I would highly encourage you to just stop the weight cut. There's no point. You've gone past the point of no return. You need to reassess the whole thing. But that could be a reason why Khabib and his team is doing it like this, why they're doing this actively, because Khabib has a history of missing weight. Maybe they've done it in the bath or they've done it in the sauna where they haven't controlled for all these factors, and he's simply stopped sweating. And he's just stopped sweating, and he's come into this, weigh in, and he's like, he was 2.5 pounds off, and he just couldn't move that because he probably stopped sweating. And maybe that's why they're saying, you know what, instead of, sitting in a hot tub, sitting in a sauna, doing whatever, let's just exercise it off, because we know that that's going to get the weight off. So that could be it.
Сварилку тут, если заходишь, надо 5-7 минут.
Most important is that you're sweating. Yeah, so maybe that is right. Maybe that little theory of mine is right, because they seem to be a bit of worry about like him sweating throughout this whole process. So I'm going to assume that for these times that he missed weight, they probably did these other methods where he did stop sweating. So that's why they're putting him through this miniature hell of making him exercise this weight off. But it is good. Like, look at this. With the water bottle, they're still doing some cooling mechanisms to try and like flatten that curve out, because his body will be really hot, especially wearing that sauna suit. They hold warmth and temperature and heat really, really well. So using this water bottle and using the ice cubes are going to be a way that they're going to help flatten that curve and hope that his body temperature doesn't get too high, which is encouraging. And if that's the reason they're doing it, then that's really good. But again, I would not recommend that they're doing this on the bike. Like, I don't know why they're doing it on the bike or the treadmill. And the only thing I can really put it down to in my mind is they've had bad experiences with the bath or the sauna in the past.
До 8 часов получается, как больше 20 минут 45.
Like, he's still coherent, he's still talking, he still seems like, okay, you made weight already. Oh, so they just skipped a whole bunch of stuff, and apparently he's on weight now. Again, that's okay, but just, do you see the guy in the background then? Oh god. No fast, sudden movements. Always very slow throughout this process. Why water was not going in. So maybe I'm gonna put some money on it. If I was gambling, I would put money on that. That my theory is correct, because they're making commentary that he wasn't sweating. So, and that he is sweating. So I'm gonna assume he's not, like, he stopped sweating sometime in the past. This guy just before mentioned, oh, there's 4 kilos in there. So maybe he's not cutting 3 kilograms. Maybe he's cutting a total of 4, and like when they'd said that, he had just got a kilo off. But even if he was doing 4 kilos, that's still only 5.3%, which is a lot. Like, if you're doing this process, it's a lot, but it's still deemed what we call safe. Like, we would still deem that safe, and you could do it. And the caveat is always, it's how you do it. It's not necessarily the amount you get off, it's how you get it out. And if you're doing 5% purely by working out on a bike and a treadmill, I would just not recommend that at all. It's just so stressful for the athlete. Physically, mentally, every aspect. Too stressful. So 400 grams to go. Okay, now they use the portable sauna. Now they're in the portables. Let's see, the good thing about these portable saunas is that there's a gauge and you can adjust the temperature. So it's not like what I described before with a lot of commercial or gym saunas where it's just one temperature, really, really hot. These portable ones, you can adjust the gauge and get it to just the perfect point for that athlete where it's just, a little bit outside of comfortable, but they've got a good sweat rate on. And you can utilize the portable ones and just use it like a bath, so you're not exposing them to that heat for extended periods of time and you're putting them at risk of overheating. You can just put them in for 5, 10, 15 minutes and then take them out and put them in a wrap or a burrito and let them cool their body that way. So if I was these guys, I would have been doing that from the get-go, because you get the exact same result as what these guys have gotten doing all the exercise and doing the bike and the treadmill, but for far less effort and far less stress on the body. He's still sweating, which is good, but I think this dude in the white is like the nutritional. He's like running it. Yeah, how much do you normally cut? 6 maximum. 6 kilos. No wonder this dude's missed weight before. 6 kilos is like 7, nearly 8% of his body weight. And that is crazy. Like, no one should be doing that water weight. You should not be cutting 8% water weight, particularly if you're going to do it like these guys are doing it, exercise. Imagine cutting 6 kilos of your weight, or 8% of your body weight, whatever you weigh, work out what 8% is. Imagine going to the gym or training or being in wherever you are and trying to lose that much weight purely through exercise. Oh my gosh. No. With kefir. What? Kefir. Right, I don't really know what they're talking about then. Okay, so they are wrapping. So it looks like what they're doing is they're using the portable sauna and then wrapping, which is much better. 7-minute sauna, 5-minute rest, and then on scale. So that's a lot better of a process. That's what I would have done from the get-go, is I would, if they had access to the portable sauna, they didn't like the bath for whatever reason, heat the person up in the portable sauna, find a temperature that suits them and is comfortable for them, but still gets that consistent sweat rate, get it up there, but then move them out into the wrap where it's a bit more comfortable, where you can control that core body temperature and still elicit this cooling mechanism of the sweating where you're bringing the fluid out. But looks like Khabib's made weight. He's walking down into the weigh-ins now. And he's just about to weigh in. So there's a lot of controversy actually, like when he stepped on the scale, about whether he made weight or not. It's not really my place to comment. There's other videos on the internet. Mike Dolce did a pretty good one where he assessed it and he looked at, you know, whether or not he actually made weight. I didn't pay too much attention to it, but if you're interested, I'll put a link to it in the description below and have a look at it and make up your own mind. But as a whole, that weight cut was pretty bad. The thing is that if these numbers I've gotten and I sourced out are correct, Khabib did this whole process leading up to that probably better than most, or pretty much what most lightweights would be doing. He's not overly big outside of camp. He's hitting pretty similar numbers to what most of my lightweight guys are coming. He's coming into fight week under 10%, which is really good. And then even during that fight week phase, he's losing 4%. And this, when he got to this final rapid weight loss or the rapid dehydration phase, that was completely backwards. No wonder he looked so relieved when he got out of the back end of this and he finished this process. That just was so much more stressful and so much more effort than what it needed to be. He did not need to be riding on the bike and running on the treadmill and swapping in between and then right at the end just getting that last little bit off on the sauna. He should have been using a hot bath or he should have been using a sauna, the portable sauna, and just making that process easier for himself, just getting his core body temperature up, coasting through, sitting in there and just repeating that process, you know, giving himself heaps of time to relax in between. He could have got up earlier. They had like 2-3 hours, seemed pretty rushed. You never want to rush this process. You know, get him in the bath, let him sweat out, put him in the wrap, keep him in there, unwrap him after a set amount of time, let him relax, let his body reacclimate to the ambient temperature of the room, let him get his bearings, and then repeat the process. Give yourself heaps of time. But yeah, I wasn't a fan of that. It just seemed disjointed. It didn't make a lot of sense to me. I don't know why they're doing it. The only thing I can think is that he stopped sweating in the sauna in the bath in the past, and that's why they were avoiding that up until the end. Yeah, no wonder that was a struggle for him. And yeah, if anyone's watching at home, I guess the biggest take-home message from me for that is do not do active dehydration. Do not do exercise. There are theories around it and why you should do it, and it's just none of it really comes out. Do it in the bath. I much prefer the bath. Bath up here. Get your guys to heat acclimate. Get them to do training sessions throughout their fight camp, whether they're doing bath or sauna. Get them to schedule in training sessions so their body can get used to it. you do sparring every week to get ready for a fight, then it makes sense that you should be bathing or doing sauna after training or on your rest day or whenever, so you can get ready for that weight cut, because it is a big ordeal that your body goes through. We do breathing as well. We have a breathing coach, Dave Wood from Woody's Movement Workshop, and he takes the guys through a breathing specific protocol that we use when we're making weight, again to help like lower their blood pressure, keep them composed, and just keep the stress levels down and mentally keep them focused during that whole process. But the thing is, and I've said it a million times before, is that there's 100 different ways to make weight. Our job as practitioners and professionals is to choose the one of least resistance, the one that's going to keep these athletes the safest, it's going to look after their long-term health, and is least stressful on their body and doesn't put them through any unnecessary stress that they don't need to go through. That's the biggest learning for me from this, is that he just went through so much unnecessary stress through this process. Whether that was from lack of education or this fear of other methods, I'm not too sure, but a lot of unnecessary stress for no real difference. He could have got the exact same result doing other different modalities to make that weight. So probably pretty good through his whole preparation up until that point, but that rapid weight loss phase was less than impressive. But hey, anyway guys, that's it for me. He's just about to jump on the scales, not much else to see. If you guys like that, give it a like, give it a share, subscribe to the channel. If there's anything in there that you want to discuss more, let's have a healthy conversation about it. Drop a comment in the comment section below. If there's anything you want me to elaborate on that I said in that video, let me know in the comment section, and let me know who you want me to review next. Alright guys, TFD out.